Hi, welcome to another episode of Flippin' Rich. And today we really want to take a deep dive into just what it takes to secure a loan for a fix and flip property and kind of what all goes into it. So, first off, Peter, there's a lot of terms that go around. Like I hear if I'm wanting to do a buy, fix, and sell a house, right? I hear private money. I hear the word hard money. I hear loan from the bank. I mean, what does that mean?
Well, first of all of them are legitimate ways to get money.
Okay.
But some of them in this world are a little bit more legitimate, meaning ease of use. One of the things I've learned in real estate, especially in the investing niche, ease of use matters.
Okay.
Ease of use matters. But yeah, you're right. Let's take a step back and kind of go through it. Bank financing. Conventional financing, institutional money. It is the cheapest money, but it is by far the hardest money to get when it comes to our types of business of fix and flips. Bottom line, none of those institutions, none of the banks, they don't want to be in this game.
Gotcha.
They want to lend on something that's nice and pretty. If God forbid they have to take it back.
So they want the long-term gain.
They want the long-term game, and they also look at it from a bank always looks at it from a worst-case scenario. Worst-case scenario, if they got to get it back. Well, guess what? No bank, no institution, no banker, no banker wants to get something back to realize it's not a sellable product.
Gotcha.
They don't want to get in the business of fixer-upper. So although it's the cheapest money, bank financing is by far the toughest money. I'll tell you, really, if you're a beginner investor, stay away. Like, cross that off. That's not something you should start out with. For the other reason, Julie, you don't want to start out with it is that it's the hardest to underwrite.
Gotcha.
They're not just looking at the deal, and you'll see how deals really matter. They're really looking at the borrower. And so if you have new tied into everything, like you're a newbie, you're inexperienced, I can tell you that this is not an area to start out with. The second one is what we call private money.
Okay.
And the best way I can describe private money, it's usually friends and family. It's usually friends, family, people that tend to know you.
Like if you were wanting to do a fix and flip and I just so happen to have the money, then you would talk to me and convince me and
That's
put
exactly
the money
right.
up.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
It's friends and family. At least that's where it starts, right? It starts at the friends and family for a couple reasons. One, it's the easiest to secure.
Yeah.
Well, for some, right? Sometimes for some people.
Some people, family ain't got no money.
Some people don't have it, and some people want to have nothing to do with friends and family. But it tends to be the easiest money to secure. The cool thing about it is that this is where it starts, but it can grow like rapid fire. Once you build a reputation, once you've made some payments back to people, once you've actually paid off, that's when you start going outside the friends and family circle, but you still stay at the people. At the people side.
But you have experience to show these other people.
Experience. You validate it yourself, and the cool thing, I'll tell you, the cool thing about private money is this is really the only type of money where you more or less dictate the terms, right?
Gotcha.
So when I'm raising private capital, I can't remember the last time, I'm sure it's happened, but I can't remember the last time somebody called me and said how much I have to pay them. It's always like they hear about you, they hear about what you're doing, they know they can get a return, and you pretty much tell them. Right? And a lot of times, if you have that reputation and you have paid people back, you pretty much dictate the terms.
Yeah.
You dictate the terms of how much interest, how much points, how much closing cost you're going to be paying, how long the money is going to stay there. Are there renewal fees? Are there non-renewal fees and all this? Having said this, if it's not like institutional capital where I'd say stay away from it if you're a beginner. Not quite that, but this is probably the second toughest area to play in.
Another misconception is, if you're fairly new, and we want to tell you these things because we want you to help you understand them up front, because it can get very confusing. So let's say on this $100,000 house, which is very rare these days, let's say you've got a $50,000 renovation budget. So you're technically borrowing $150,000.
Yes.
Do they give you the renovation money up front?
No, that's a reimbursement. Again,
a reimbursement. What does that mean?
Well,
that means you put the money out first, and they reimburse you. So I want to bring it back. You've got to have the 20 to 25% down, right, Peter?
Yep, up front.
Up front. Also, you need to have the money for the rehab too, don't you? Because that's a reimbursement. You've got to
Yep.
put that money out front.
Yep, it's all part of the pay to play. You know, sometimes people think, well, I'm just going to borrow money, or I'm going to tell you right now, Julie's absolutely right. This business, make no mistake about it, costs you money. And on the rehab, not only does it cost you money in the rehab, but if you do it wrong, it can cost you double the money, right? You pay out a $10,000 draw to somebody who kind of messed that up, right? Covered some things up, hid some things from you, and that bank inspector or hard money inspector comes in, and all of a sudden, well, we ain't giving you $10,000 on that. We're giving you $3,000 on that.
Oh, hey, I want to slow you down right here. So you're telling me that, let's say I'm into it, right? I'm $10,000 in the deal, and you're like, you know what? I need to call the bank because I need a draw right now.
That's right.
The bank can come out there, the hard money lender
Yep.
can send their inspector,
Yep.
and based off of the work performed,
Yep.
they can choose how much to give you?
Well, they not only can, but they do. They literally do. They only pay on work completed. Because remember, a lender, no matter what kind of a lender, is looking at it from a worst case scenario. So that hard money lender, when they send that inspector out there, they're still looking at it. What happens if Julie defaults, right? And if all of a sudden she wants $10,000 and $3,000 completed, they don't care that you've paid out $10,000. They're looking at it, well, what happens if Julie leaves, defaults, doesn't finish the job? They have to have that money left in their own escrow to be able to finish the job. So the bottom line is this. This is an interesting way of looking at it. People sometimes will think, well, I can afford 10% or 20% out of pocket. It's a lot more. It's like Julie said, because you're basically fronting the whole budget. As you get reimbursed, you're fronting.
So you almost see the 20% and the rehab budget.
Yeah, well, you do.
So $150,000 rehab for somebody that's brand new, I don't know how to do that.
No, you don't want, for a lot of reasons, you don't want to do that. One of them is you better have a lot of money out of pocket. You better have a lot of money out of pocket. So even think about this, even though you're dealing in a sector that wants to deal with you, the hard money sector, you're not dealing with a stupid sector. You're not dealing with people that don't know what they're doing. And I promise you, as much as they want you as a client, as much as they want to be doing business with you specifically, they're always looking at it from a worst case scenario. And the only way for them to cover themselves is to expose you to a degree, meaning you have as much money in the deal as possible. But by the way, the reason they also want you to have as much money in the deal as possible, not just to protect themselves, but the more you have, the less of a chance you're going to default on it. The more you have in that deal, the less of a chance you're going to take off of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk about these draws for a minute. It's actually cheaper on you to take less draws during the transaction. So let's say, again, we'll go back to that $50,000 rehab. Let's say you've only got $10,000 on top of the 20%. So you got your $10,000 out. Now it's time for another draw. Do they charge you to come out there to give you a draw?
Yeah. They charge you two ways, time and money. And so it's going to cost you. If you're going to have a bunch of draws, you're going to incur fees into the thousands.
What's crazy about this whole thing that was so hard for me to understand, this thing is set up for new people, for the banks to make more money than you.
That's right.
I mean, you went and found the deal, you're doing the work, you're getting it sold, and sometimes the lenders make more money than you. And why is that? We just told you. It's points, it's interest. Interest really isn't as important as everybody thinks, even though everybody thinks that's the most important thing, right?
No.
But it's how much money do you got? How many draws are you taking? You can't afford to be doing 3, 4, 5 draws in the middle of a job. You want to get as much done as possible, collect a big draw so that you're not paying all those fees.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. That's exactly right. You said something interesting. I want to make sure that our listeners don't overlook this.
Yeah.
It is very. Oh, and by the way, I lived this. What I'm about to tell you, like I literally lived this, where my hard money lenders, were making more money than I.
Yeah, they were like, Peter.
No, it's. They know how to structure these deals. It's funny sometimes. As we partner and we split profits with our partners. They're like, I don't care what the percentage is. I don't want to split profits, and I'm just telling them they don't understand. With a private lender, or like a hard money lender, you're going to have your own money in the deal. Right? You're going to incur all the exposure of that deal. And on top of that, you're going to make less than the lender that's really sitting in an office like this, kind of sipping his coffee and waiting for you to make some whopping payments.
Yeah, while you're sitting over here stressed out that the windows are 1 week behind, that this and 2x4s went up.
Yep.
I mean, that's just crazy. You know, we're not telling you all of this to stop you from wanting to go and flip houses, but you need to know before you get into it. And sometimes it's not best to learn the business from the lender. You've got to understand where the lender's coming from. They're in a business to make money. They are not going to set themselves up in a way that they don't make money. Somebody like Peter that's done thousands of deals, they're okay to take less money, right? Like, you're not pulling draws, you're not doing these things because it costs money. But anything that we're talking about, it really boils down that you got to pay to play, right? You got to start somewhere. That's why it's so important to follow the ground rules that we've laid out for you, right? These tight deals. You may lose all your profits in a tight deal just off of the money side, couldn't you?
Oh, very, very easily. And the other thing that's very important that people understand, especially if you're newer and you're watching this, don't get into big rehab jobs.
Don't.
I mean, they will absolutely, and it's the way the money works on reimbursements, on holding costs when you go over and all this. I'm telling you, the weight, the scale of who makes more will tremendously get way towards your lender side if you get in over your head on the rehab side. Okay, so just kind of a sideline tip, I know we're talking about money, but a way to kind of lessen the blow, because I know, Julie, you said, and I agree with you, that you know, the interest is not the important thing, but when you get into these kind of interest rates, 10, 12%.
Over 8 months.
Or you sit in the deal upwards of a year, figure it out. It's huge. It's more than just pay to play. It's like you can get all of your, literally all of your profits, you know, gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you guys learned a little bit today about private money, about hard money lending, about institutional funds. So sign off, Peter. So what's your biggest advice to someone when going to purchase their first or first couple flips?
Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to money, a lot of people just overlook thinking about it as a cost. You know, they'll factor the cost of the rehab. You know, they'll factor the cost of, you know, here's my acquisition cost. You know, they'll factor everything else, and they just kind of sort of ballpark a number for the cost of money. It is an actual cost. It is a hard cost, and it is an expensive cost. So my best advice, if you're getting into a deal, especially if you're in the newer side, get very intimate at figuring out the cost of what it really costs to do a deal. Because that cost could literally flip a deal from being profitable to no longer being profitable. It happened to me. You got to know your numbers, and you got to know the numbers of the money game.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Flippin' Rich. See you next time.